It's been a hell of a week, hasn't it? I mean, first you have Donald Trump doing a 180 on the Epstein files and then being stunned when the Senate decides to pass a clean version that came from them from the House of Representatives and then signing said law and then his DOJ doing what I knew that they were going to do, which is some type of two-step to figure out, oh my God, how can we not now release the Epstein files because we thought that we had more time? Because what they wanted to do was just volley it back and forth between the House and the Senate. And then magically, Donald Trump would be out of office or dead. Who knows? But here we are. And on top of which, he entertained a terrorist in the Oval Office yesterday, known as MBS, but a known terrorist nonetheless. That has ties to 9/11 and, just happened to murder and dismember a U.S. citizen and a reporter from the Washington Post. Now, right as I was coming on air today, you think to yourself, it can't get any worse, could it? It can, because every single time that you think that we have hit rock bottom, no, Republicans and MAGA find a way to frack us to hell. And so we find ourselves here where they have decided to remove the designation from the swastika and the noose as hate symbols, because apparently in MAGA, a swastika and a noose is a fucking greeting card. So glad that you all are here, damnation. It's the Danielle Moodie Show. Grab a cocktail, a mocktail, your service animal, or your plant, because we need a lot to get through. And it's okay, but I am here for you. Let's get started. Some days I wish that I could come on here and be like, y'all, let's just talk about puppies, sprinkles, and rainbows, because there is nothing else to discuss in the news today. Or back to the boring days where I got to discuss, policy measures and whether or not they were going to help as many people as they said that they were going to do. But no. That is not what I get to do here. No. I get to tell you about all of the ways that this white supremacist, white nationalist, idiot filled government has decided to reduce the designation of swastikas and nooses as hate symbols because, I guess it would just keep them too busy because that's all their base is about. And maybe Pete Hegseth can now get the tattoo that he really wants. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just so sick and tired of them. Like, honestly, by the time that I reach Thursday, is it Thursday? I think it is. By the time that I reach Thursday on this show, I am about had it up to here, okay, with these fucking people. Because my God, you know how the saying goes, like, God only takes cares of like fools and children. Why is it that good people die young, but these motherfuckers are still walking this good green earth? Why is it, right? That, like, I don't know. What have we done to deserve this? And then, of course, you go back in history and you realize, well, America has done a lot, right? And this is just our chicken coming home to roost. But for the love of God, everyone on the planet knows what a swastika symbol means. Okay? Everyone knows what a fucking noose means. And so the audacity for them to, just change the designation. Oh, it's no longer a hate symbol because I'm going to let these motherfuckers tell me what a hate symbol is. Donald Trump in and of himself is a hate symbol. The fucking MAGA hat is a hate symbol, right? Saying that you're a Republican and having an R after your name after all that this 34 count felon and adjudicated sex offender has done, that to me is also a hate symbol. But it just, again, goes to show you who these people are. So you don't have to pretend that you don't know. You don't have to pretend, I wonder what it means. And this is what mainstream corporate media will do. I wonder what it means that Donald Trump now has loosened the designation on hate symbols. I wonder if we should do a 6-person panel and get everybody to say 90 seconds of bullshit because they can't just say the truth. Donald Trump is a white nationalist. America elected a white nationalist to lead them. He might as well be the reincarnation of Bull Connor. Okay? There, saved you the panel. So, on top of which, here we are today. Just, as if that wasn't enough, right? Well, I don't know. Some of you may have seen me join my friend Dino Badala from SiriusXM's The Dino Badala Show over on Substack Live, because we were on at noon talking about this. And when Dean texted me and said, Danielle, can we start off today with talking about Donald Trump calling for the execution of Democrats? I said, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, oh, yeah. Go check it out. So I did. Punishable by death. Trump threatens Democrats with sedition charges. The U.S. president forcefully denounced Democratic lawmakers for calling on military members to do what? To reject any illegal orders they may receive, because apparently telling military leaders to follow the Constitution and the oath that they took is worthy of sedition. But if you shit inside the Capitol, you're a patriot. You see how that works? Yeah. So it goes on. The United States president, which I just refuse to associate him with that because I think that title deserves respect. And for him, I have none. So Donald Trump has floated the possibility of the death penalty for a group of Democratic Congress members who called upon the military and intelligence community to refuse illegal orders. He also suggested he would be in favor of imprisoning the Democrats for their statement. This is what he wrote on his broke down social media platform. This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up. Trump wrote on Thursday as part of a series of posts on his platform, Truth Social. A follow-up message published about 40 minutes later, because what else does he have to do but clearly tweet all day, contained only 5 words. Seditious behavior, punishable by death. Yes, that is exactly what the President of the United States posted on his broke down social media platform. Now, folks, I want to remind you of this, right? It was just a couple of months ago that a Democratic leader and her husband and their dog were shot to death in their home by a Trump supporter. It was only, right, earlier this year where Governor Shapiro's house was firebombed, right? That happened in January, okay? And we fucking forgot about that. It was only like a year or two ago that Gretchen Whitman was almost kidnapped by a group of what? Trump supporters who wanted to, rape her and murder her. They're now in prison. I'm surprised Donald Trump didn't pardon them, but state charges. So the fact is that we live in a heightened climate of political violence because of Donald Trump. Over the last 10 years of that son of a bitch being in our political sphere, we have watched as violence in this country towards politicians, towards candidates, towards fucking poll workers has skyrocketed, all because he gets on social media and says that certain people deserve to die. Now, you tell me, if in normal times, which I don't even know when those were, was that 2018? Was it 2019? Was it 2014? I have no idea when normal times were at this point. But normally, the president of the United States saying that his political opponents should be, dead or in prison for telling the military to follow the Constitution, that would warrant maybe the 25th Amendment. That would warrant maybe some type of pushback from mainstream corporate media, like maybe Donald Trump ain't working with all the fucking marbles right now, or maybe he is exactly who he wants to be, which is MBS Jr., because he said, right, that MBS and him share the same thoughts. They're on the same sides. They find themselves on the same sides of most issues. And that man is a terrorist and a murderer. So when Donald Trump says that they have a lot in common, is this what he's talking about? And again, why did nobody in mainstream corporate media ask that fucking question when he said it? What do you mean that you're on the same side of some issues? Because given the fact that, I don't know, Saudi Arabia is not known for their humanitarian rights. They're not known for, what's that thing? It begins with a D, democracy. What exactly do you have in common with the man who our own intelligence community told us ordered the hit on a U.S. citizen? Anything? Anyone? Bueller? Anywho. So Trump's threat came in response to a video published on November 18th containing clips of 6 Democratic senators and representatives, all of them veterans of the U.S. military or intelligence services. In the video, the Congress members remind their colleagues in the armed forces and intelligence community of their duty to, quote, refuse illegal orders. They said this: "We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now." The Congress member said, "Americans trust their military, but that is at risk." Tell me, dear audience, what part of that is worthy of prison? Well, you take a look at the video and you tell me.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals.
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad.
But from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
So tell me, you've all seen this now. What part of that ad is sedition worthy? What part of that ad should have invoked the kind of wrath that Donald Trump unleashed when he says that duly elected Democratic members of Congress should be put to death for that video? I mean, when I tell you, because I did a short earlier today, where I said, you know what? we're not even in Oz anymore. You know how they say in The Wizard of Oz, like, I guess we're not in Kansas anymore as we enter Oz. No, we're not even in Oz anymore. Like, this is we're in the mashup of Black Mirror, fucking Get Out, Scandal, and Veep. Like, it is, I just, every fucking day, I think it can't get worse. And I should stop saying that to the universe, right? Because every time it's like, no, hold my beer. So, of course, Donald Trump goes on his rant, and Manu Raju from CNN is walking the halls of the Capitol building, chasing down Mike Johnson, who is always, on the run. And he asks the speaker what he thought of the video and his reaction. So I just want to read it to you, and then I'll play it for you. CNN's Manu Raju. The president posted that Democrats who urge service members not to follow legal or illegal, he meant illegal orders, should be, no, I'm sorry. The president posted that Democrats who urge service members not to follow legal orders should be seditious, conspiracy, and punishable by death. House Speaker Mike Johnson, I know the DOJ and the Pentagon are looking into the legality of that. The legality of what? The legality of posting a video reminding the service members that they should follow the rule of law and remember their oath to the Constitution. But the DOJ, Pam Bondi, I thought she was so busy with the fucking files that she wouldn't have time for that.
Speaker, how you doing? The president posted that Democrats who urge service members to not follow illegal orders should be punished, it should be seditious, conspiracy, and punishable by death. Do you have any response to that?
Look, I know the DOJ and the Pentagon are looking into the legality of all that, but what I can address is what everybody knows. That was wildly inappropriate. It is very dangerous. You have leading members of Congress telling troops to disobey orders. I think that's unprecedented in American history. And as the father of a young man who is, at the Naval Academy, going to be joining the service, I know young soldiers, airmen, sailors, they don't need that kind of nonsense from people in Congress. It is very dangerous.
But punishable by death. Punishable by
I'm
death.
going to let others define what it is, but it's wildly inappropriate.
Were we watching the same video? Were we watching the same video? The video said that they were all veterans, right? Of either the intelligence community or our military, reminding people of their oath to the Constitution and that you don't have to and you should not follow illegal orders. And what Republicans hear is that any order that the president gives is a legal order and they should do as they're told. You heard that, right? Like, so they are admitting outright that the shit that Donald Trump is doing, for instance, I don't know, in the Caribbean Sea and with Venezuela, where the UK has decided not to share intelligence information with us because they don't want to meet us at The Hague in a few years and have to explain why they were just, casually blowing up fishermen in the Caribbean Sea. Like, they don't want to be a part of that because there is no information that has been provided to them or to the intelligence committees about what this operation is and who is being picked up. And how do you know that they are narco terrorists if you've provided no due process? I don't know. Before the bomb hits, does the drone ask them if they're narco terrorists and then they say yes and then kaboom? Because even if they are, as I said in the video that I posted earlier today, even if they were terrorists, guess what? The United States government isn't supposed to operate like a fucking criminal organization. That's why there's a difference between criminals and politicians, or at least there should be. One follows the rule of law, swears an oath to the Constitution, and the other does whatever the fuck they want. Oh, it gets even better. It gets even better. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I don't want to listen to this motherfucker's voice. I don't even want to look at him. But here we are. So here's Stephen Miller's reaction to the Democrats' ad. Okay?
When we say that Democrats are communists, we don't just mean that, well, they believe in the state control of property. We mean they've adopted a method of thinking in which any use of force is justified for their end state of power and control. So they become a third world party, and we have to internalize that. We're not dealing with the old Democratic Party. We're dealing with a third world party.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much for fighting through the technological issue.
No follow-up there. What? What is a third world party? What the fuck does that mean? Can you specify? Can you provide us with your definition of what a third world party is? You're saying that these are not the Democrats of yesteryear, but they seem to be the same Democrats that are talking about an allegiance to the Constitution and the rule of law. So I'm confused. When you say third world party, what does that mean? No, they just thank him for his time. See you again next time. You can lie to us as much as you want because, you know, we're Fox and we fucking love liars. So here is Chuck Schumer following Donald Trump's diatribe on Truth Social and what he said.
Today, Donald Trump shared a post on Truth Social calling for Democratic members of Congress to be hanged. He also posted a message that said, seditious behavior, punishable by death. Let's be crystal clear. The President of the United States is calling for the execution of elected officials.
I mean, it seemed pretty fucking clear to me, right? Like that is what you all heard, right? That's what you said. And so what does Chuck Schumer then do as a follow-up? Because again, I started out at the top. We are living in clearly violent times, politically motivated violence, right? We are looking at Democratic leaders that were gunned down in their home. We're looking at the battering of Nancy Pelosi's husband. We are looking at the firebombing, right, of judges' homes and a governor's home. We're looking at kidnapping plans being thwarted, right? Like over and over and over again. Actual people have died, right? Actual homes have been blown up. So when the president of the United States talks to his unhinged fucking base and says that these particular leaders, Democrats in general, should be tried for sedition and it should be punished by death, what the fuck do you think that they hear? So now Chuck Schumer has to take, you know, once again, my favorite goddamn word, unprecedented action.
On this low, I have never seen a president or heard of a president who has done more to encourage political violence. I have asked the Capitol Police to give special protection and keep an eye on Slotkin and Kelly as well, because you got to worry after the president says these things.
Have you gotten any specific?
So now Chuck Schumer has had to go ahead and direct Capitol Police to provide extra protection to the two senators that were in that video. And I'm hoping the same will be done for those that are members of the House of Representatives that appeared in the video as well. Because you can never be too fucking safe. Because when you are listening to what Mike Johnson heard and what fucking Stephen Miller heard, they hear a call to war and a call to action. So what do you think that their less educated and unhinged base hears? The same thing that Vance Butler heard before he shot the Speaker of the Minnesota House. The same thing, right? That these MAGA-fied assassins here when Donald Trump directs them to go take their country back. You see, mainstream corporate media likes to take all of this shit in a silo as if Donald Trump is not the insurrectionist in chief, as if 1,500 people weren't pardoned when he became president, and several of them have been rounded up and are back in fucking jail because they're deranged fucking lunatics. So, what does Bobblehead Barbie say? You know, I just... Whew.
And I'll let the president speak for himself. Natalie.
Thank you, Caroline. What did the president...
Oh, wrong one. Listen to this one.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. We were talking about before, earlier in this briefing, about the president's orders. You were going back and forth about what the ad said, what it didn't say. My first question is...
The ad?
The advertisement that the Senate Democrats were featured in. So the first question is... no matter what the order is, it could be to any administration official, military or otherwise, no matter if legal experts might think it's illegal, does the president expect those cabinet members, administration officials to go ahead with those orders regardless of any outside thinking or experts?
The president expects his cabinet officials and the administration to follow the law and to demand accountability and hold people accountable for their dangerous rhetoric. And I would just add that if this were Republican members of Congress who were encouraging members of the military and members of our United States government to defy orders from the president and from the chain of command, this entire room would be up in arms. But instead, it is the other way around, and I think that's quite telling. I'm going to let you all go because the president, excuse me, I appreciate the encouragement this morning, but...
So you just heard from Bobblehead Barbie's mouth, right? Like that she fucking lies as well as she breathes. Because she said, oh my goodness, you know, I would expect that if, you know, there were, you know, if this were a different president and they were calling for the military to, you know, to disobey orders, that people would be outright and up in arms. And you heard the reporters yelling back, that's not what that ad said. It said to disobey illegal orders. So again, because she's chicken shit and not going to take any follow-up questions and going to go run upstairs, right? The follow-up question is, so why is the president so concerned? Is it that he believes that many of the orders that he has given or the orders that Pete Hegseth has given are in fact illegal? Because he would have no reason to be upset by a video if in fact he was following the law. So should we assume then that the president is not following the rule of law in terms of engagement with foreign countries? Where are those questions? Is anyone else exasperated? I know that I am. Like I just, you know, there are days when I'm outdone and like this week is one of them. This week is one of those days when I am fucking outdone. And so here's the other thing. Remember earlier this week, I played Mary Bruce from ABC, her question, where Donald Trump said that ABC should be investigated and lose their license and that she was an idiot and they were all idiots because she asked why basically he was sitting there with a known terrorist and, you know, should his family be wrapped up in Saudi money? Well, then earlier in the week, you know, he got into another woman reporter's face with his finger and called her, said, quiet piggy, right? And media didn't cover that. Nor did any of the people, any of the reporters, men or women in that room, come to her aid or collectively walk out, because if he's going to mistreat one person, he's going to mistreat everyone. So why all of these reporters are not working in lockstep at this point? Like, I get it. It is competitive business and everyone is in it for the scoop and for the fucking breaking news. But we are living in, wait for it, unprecedented times. And so you think that maybe you would start moving and acting in coordination as a group like they did over at the Pentagon when Pete Hegseth said, oh, you guys all got to sign an NDA. and what you write needs to be approved before it goes out. And they all said, fuck it, we'll pack up our desks because we're not doing that. Same thing here. If Donald Trump is disrespecting one of you, it should feel as if he is disrespecting all of you, because he is. Calling a female reporter piggy, it's not funny. It's not a fucking joke. What is a joke is this entire administration. What is a joke is Bobblehead Barbie. But I want you to take a listen. I want you to take a listen to what she says when asked about that disrespectful remark.
And I'll let the president speak for himself. Natalie.
Thank you, Caroline. What did the president mean when he called a reporter piggy?
Look, the president is very frank and honest with everyone in this room. You've all seen it yourself. You've all experienced it yourselves. And I think it's one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president, because of his frankness. And he calls out fake news when he sees it. He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him, when you spread fake news about him and his administration. But he also is the most transparent president in history. And he gives all of you...
Fuck off. Right? Like, honestly, fuck off. Right? I would never have the temperament to be a White House reporter, because I think that, like, I wouldn't make it through. Do you know what I'm saying? A little aside. So, Bobblehead Barbie gave a right-wing reporter, she did like a podcast, a right-wing podcast. I don't know anything about her personal life, right? And so, you know, it was clearly a right-wing podcast that she was on with another right-wing woman who was asking her about her husband and, you know, in their marriage. And she's all being, you know, apparently soft and nice and all of these things. Bobblehead Barbie is 28 years old. Her husband is 32 years older than her. I had no idea. No idea. 32 years older than her. It speaks volumes. Volumes. He's 60. She's 28. And they have, she said, a beautiful baby together. I wonder if she named the baby Alimony. And you wonder why. You wonder why. You have the likes of Megyn Kelly saying that, oh, the barely legal type. I mean, it's not as if Jeffrey Epstein was sleeping with an 8-year-old or a 15-year-old. By the way, you don't sleep with children, you rape them. Language actually matters. But it starts to make sense, right? When you dig into these people, these women, you dig into their backgrounds just a little bit. Like, you move past the Botox and you move past the stuff, and like you get to the root of it, and you realize that 28 and 60, and you're out there protecting your daddy, the president of the United States, because he's a fucking liar. And what she said, what was amazing, the woman who's interviewing her says, oh, and your husband is like, you know, this self-made man, AKA he's rich. Oh, yes, he's absolutely self-made. He's a real estate business guy, you know, back home. And was he one of your dad's friends? Has he known you since you were a baby? It all just makes sense. It makes sense as to why, folks, like why this shit kind of like pedophilia, you know, child rape, like it just doesn't really stick because they've normalized this shit. 28 and your husband is 60. But then, you know what? You look all over Hollywood, and what do? We glorify the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio, by the way, is 50, and he dates 20-year-olds. And we think that that shit is normal. I mean, I will say, at least, you know, they are actually legal. But these men are like patrolling high schools or elementary schools at this point, like waiting for their brides. It's a fucking sickness, like deeply embedded in this country and deeply part of the psychosis of MAGA women. The woman who was interviewing her said, ha ha ha, could you not find any boys your age? And she's like, oh no, he, I couldn't. My husband's amazing. He's your sugar daddy. Shut up. Anywho, switching gears to the shit show that is our economy. The U.S. economy saw stronger than expected job growth in September. Okay. It was 119,000 jobs that were added in September. Ask me how many jobs were added in September of 2024. Over 250,000. So stronger than? Euphemism much? Anywho, according to CNN, the latest snapshot, you know, the only one that we're going to get, because we're not going to get October and we're not going to get November, because they've already told us that because of the shutdown that they caused and they now don't have the data, or maybe the data is just so fucking bad, they don't want to release it. Both things can be true. The latest snapshot of the U.S. market, labor market, showed an unexpected rebound. 119,000 jobs in September. Again, what was the job gain at this point last year? Over 250,000, but they're not going to tell you that. But a loss for August and a lower total for July. The report was originally scheduled for October 3rd, but because of the government shutdown, yada, yada, yada. It comes, though, as earning reports from some of America's major companies flash warning signs about the U.S. economy, with consumers and businesses becoming more cautious about their spending. The September report has taken on increased significance since it will be the only snapshot that the labor market, snapshot of the labor market that the Federal Reserve will have in hand to assess the state of the economy. Sure, because they're not going to look in other places. Today's data was expected to show that the unemployment rate held at 4.3% and that around 50,000 jobs were added, a far cry from last September when the U.S. economy added 240,000 jobs. Maybe lead with that piece. But let's take a listen from CNN.
Is look at this, the unemployment rate going to 4.4% unexpectedly. It was supposed to stay at 4.3. It did not. And as you noted, this is a new 4-year high. Now, when we look at the pace of job growth over the past year or so, you can see that September was a big rebound. The other thing that this chart shows is that August was revised negative. It was positive 22,000, and now it is slightly negative. And the other thing that really stands out here is now we have 2 of the last 4 months, right? June and August, where the U.S. economy actually lost jobs. 2 out of the last 4 months that we have data on. That's after a stretch of almost 4 years of uninterrupted job growth. So this clearly speaks to the softness in the job market. The other thing I want to look at here is wages against prices, because we know there's this affordability crisis where a lot of people feel like they just can't keep up with the high prices. In this chart, the red line shows the rate of inflation. And when you go back to 2023, the red line was above the blue line, which is wages. And so that's why people felt like they could not catch up. Now, the good news is that in the latest month, wages were up by 3.7%. That is ahead of the inflation rate, which was 3%. But I also think that what stands out here, John, is that the gap here is narrowing, right? And so prices are still high. They're still going up at a fast pace, but wages are not going up by nearly as much. So that's part of the reason why people are so frustrated.
People are not frustrated. People are fucking broke, right? Because what he said there, so I can just part and parcel out, is that we didn't add as many jobs as we thought that we would add. Oh, the unemployment rate rose. And oh, wages are not keeping up with the price hikes. So also known as, I'm not an economist, but I think that this is a word that economists use, we're fucked. Does that sound right? Why say 10 words when you can say less? Rounding out the fuckery, just quickly, today apparently was Dick Cheney's funeral. And you know who wasn't there? Take any guess. Well, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Do you know who was there? Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, George W. Bush, Mitch McConnell, Mike Pence. They were all there. And what was written here, different parties, different eras, but all part of the same DC establishment gathered in one place. Now look at who didn't show up. Trump, J.D. Vance, the sitting president and VP, the leaders of the new GOP were nowhere in sight, while every heavyweight of the old guard stood shoulder to shoulder paying tribute. Symbolism matters in Washington. So do absences. What do all those who have attended have in common? Well, hopefully none of them are in the Epstein files, but, you know, we'll see. As I close out today, I think that it's important to make note of what is happening inside of Charlotte, North Carolina, where over 30,000 Charlotte students were absent from school in protest of ICE operations. ICE operations have been out of control in Charlotte, North Carolina, in what they are calling, quote unquote, Operation Charlotte's Web, like they read a book. Over 30,000 Charlotte students were absent on Monday, according to school officials. Charlotte Mecklenburg schools said on Tuesday that the attendance data showed that 30,399 students were absent. Initially, it was reported as 20,000 plus. Officials said that the number is still unofficial and the data needs to be finalized. Many of them were out protesting ICE being in their communities. And what is significant about this particular school district? It is largely majority Hispanic. And they are being targeted. And so this was in People magazine, because I'll tell you something funny. When I went to go look for this story, I thought there would be a bevy of news clippings and places to pull from. There wasn't. There was very little that was covered about this. But I'm proud of these kids because they're doing more than their fucking representatives are doing. But this is what the governor of North Carolina, who just so happens to be a Democrat, said. Governor Josh Stein, quote, "Once again, I call on federal agents to target violent criminals, not neighbors walking down the street, going to church, or putting up Christmas decorations," Stein wrote. "Stop targeting people simply going about their lives because of the color of their skin, as you are doing in Charlotte." He also urged the residents in Raleigh to remain peaceful, and if you see something wrong, report it to local law enforcement. And finally, I will leave you with, on this Good Thursday, a little bit of good news from our friend Harry Enton over at CNN.
This is a poll that came out yesterday, Marquette University Law School poll, and I don't think it picked up enough coverage that it should have, because these numbers should be truly frightening to Republicans. Why do I point it out? Why do I say that? Okay, Dems versus Republicans on the generic congressional ballot. If you look at all voters, this matches the average. You see Democrats up by 5 points. Okay, that's not a bad position, but it's not as strong as they were in the 2018 cycle at this point. But come over to this side of the screen. This is where it gets truly frightening for the GOP, because among those certain to vote, look at this. The Democratic advantage nearly doubles. We're talking about a 9-point advantage going from 5 to 9 points. And this matches with what we're seeing in other polls, which is huge Democratic enthusiasm, huge. And more than that, remember, elections are not just about persuasion. They're about turnout as well. And what this suggests is Democrats are far more likely to turn out at this point. A 9-point advantage going from 5 to 9. That is A+, 2 thumbs up. Great news for Democrats.
I do want to ask, like, historically, is it unusual at this point in early polling for Democrats to be this enthusiastic?
Yeah, this is why I think this number was surprising to me. The reason it was surprising to me was I went back through the history books. I went back, okay, party more certain to vote by party identification, early cycle midterm polls. Look at this. In 2006, Republicans said they were more likely to turn out. 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022. And then all of a sudden in the 2026 cycle, look at this. Democrats are the ones who say they're more likely to turn out and vote. So this does not match what we see historically. The idea that Democrats are more certain to vote is a new phenomenon and matches with what we have generally seen the Democratic coalition sort of evolving, becoming more highly educated. Matches with that because more highly educated people are more likely to turn out and vote. And again, this is historically unusual and suggests that there's a hidden Democratic advantage in the polls right now. You look at those polls, you look at those average of the generic ballot, you see Democrats up by 5. That, in my opinion, based upon the Marquette University Law School poll and what we know about this Democratic coalition, may be, in fact, underestimating the Democratic strength going into next year's midterm elections.
So there you have it, my friends. There is just a little bit of good news. Sometimes you have to look for the glimmers in the darkness, and if you can't find it, be it. Because we are dealing with some incredibly dark times, but there is always possibility. There is always hope to hold on to. Because what they want us to believe, dear friends, is that they are inevitable. Their power is inevitable. Their reign is inevitable, and it is not. We've seen the cracks. We've seen the fissures. We know that MAGA is penetrable. And it's up to us to continue to do the hard work until all of it crumbles. That is it for me here, folks, on the Danielle Moodie Show. As you know, the Danielle Moodie Show is live Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern, and I will be back on Monday with the Danielle Moodie Show at 5 p.m. Eastern. But do make sure tomorrow to tune in at 12 p.m. Eastern for Democracy-ish with myself and my fabulous co-pilot, Wajahat Ali, where we will break down the week as we see it, as we saw it, and what we can expect with the week coming up. Before I get out of here, I want to thank my super stickers and super thanks again. This is independent media. Without your generous contributions, I would not be able to do the work that I do. So I am so grateful for every dollar, every cent that you all send my way. So Design Chic, thank you so much for the Canadian $6.99. I appreciate you. Susan, our wonderful moderator, thank you as always. Becky, thank you for the $5. And again, thank you for the $10. Appreciate you so very much. Again, folks, I have videos that go up all weekend long, so do make sure that you check them out. And if you are on Substack, all you have to do is hit that subscribe. Folks, all of my content is free. You know that. But if you have the ability to become a paid subscriber on the Damn Digest, please do consider doing so. And friends, if you are able to become a paid member of the Danielle Moodie channel, I would greatly appreciate it. But just know, if you cannot, you will never miss a thing. My content remains free because that's the way that democracy survives. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these incredibly dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here 12 p.m. Eastern for Democracy-ish. Ghostface Killer, appreciate you. All right, folks, have a fabulous weekend. Do something fun. Do something joy-centered, okay? See you soon.